Dr. Victoria Hartwell had been working as the head of genealogical research at the Chicago Historical Society for over 20 years when she encountered the photograph that would challenge everything she understood about memory, identity, and the mysterious ways human consciousness could manifest across generations. The image had been submitted by Robert Kellerman, an elderly man in his 80s, who was trying to trace his family's history for his grandchildren before his advancing dementia made such research impossible. The photograph showed what appeared to be a typical family gathering from 1932, taken during the height of the Great Depression, when families often came together for support, comfort, and the simple pleasure of each other's company during difficult times. 14 people were arranged on the front porch of a modest farmhouse somewhere in rural Illinois, their faces reflecting the mixture of hardship and resilience that characterized American families during that challenging period. The notation on the back of the photograph, written in careful cursive handwriting, identified the occasion as Kellerman Family Reunion, July 4, 1932, Grandpa's Farm. Robert Kellerman had provided Dr. Hartwell with detailed family records that documented the identity of each person visible in the photograph. His grandparents, parents, aunts, uncles, and cousins who had gathered to celebrate Independence Day and maintain family connections despite the economic hardships that had scattered them across the Midwest. But when Dr. Hartwell used the Historical Society's high-resolution scanning equipment to digitize the photograph for preservation, she discovered something that made her question the reliability of both memory and documentation. Standing at the far left edge of the group, partially obscured by shadows but clearly visible when the image was enhanced, was a 15th person who appeared in none of Robert Kellerman's family records and whom no living family member could identify or remember. The unidentified figure was a woman who appeared to be in her 30s, wearing a dark dress that was consistent with Depression-era fashion but somehow seemed more elegant and expensive than the clothing worn by the other family members. Her posture was confident and self-assured, her expression serene yet distant, as if she were participating in the family gathering while simultaneously existing apart from it. Most unsettling was the woman's position in the photograph. She stood close enough to the group to clearly be part of the gathering, but the lighting on her face and clothing seemed to come from a different source than the natural sunlight that illuminated the rest of the family. Her shadow fell at an angle that didn't match the shadows cast by the other people in the photograph, suggesting that she might have been photographed under entirely different lighting conditions. Dr. Hartwell immediately contacted Robert Kellerman to inquire about the unidentified woman. When she described the figure's appearance and location in the photograph, Robert's response was both confused and disturbing. He insisted that there had been only 14 people present at the 1932 family reunion, all of whom he could identify from his childhood memories and family stories passed down through generations. Dr. Hartwell emailed a high-resolution scan of the photograph to Robert's son Michael, who served as his father's caregiver and memory aide. Michael's response arrived within hours, confirming that the family had never seen or heard of any woman matching the description Dr. Hartwell had provided. More troubling still, when Michael showed the scan to his father, Robert became agitated and distressed, insisting that someone was playing tricks on him by adding people to his family's photographs. This reaction prompted Dr. Hartwell to examine the original photograph more carefully, looking for any signs of photographic manipulation or double exposure that might explain the mysterious woman's presence. Using ultraviolet light, chemical analysis, and microscopic examination, she confirmed that the photograph was authentic and unmanipulated, with no evidence of alteration or composite imaging techniques. The mystery deepened when Dr. Hartwell discovered that the unidentified woman appeared only in high-resolution digital scans of the photograph. When she examined the original print using optical magnification, the woman was completely absent from the image. The phenomenon was similar to cases she had read about in academic journals, involving photographic anomalies that became visible only through digital enhancement and reproduction. Dr. Hartwell contacted her colleague, Dr. Stephen Matthews, a specialist in photographic authentication at Northwestern University, requesting his assistance in understanding the impossible presence of a figure who existed in digital reproductions but not in the original source material. Dr. Matthews arrived in Chicago with sophisticated imaging equipment and a team of graduate students who had experience with unusual photographic phenomena. Dr. Matthews's examination confirmed Dr. Hartwell's findings. The woman was clearly visible in digital scans, but completely absent from direct observation of the original photograph. His team conducted extensive tests using various scanning technologies, lighting conditions, and reproduction methods, but the results remained consistent. The digital imaging process was somehow revealing visual information that wasn't accessible through normal optical observation. More disturbing still, the woman's appearance in digital scans seemed to vary depending on the scanner used and the person operating the equipment. Some reproductions showed her clearly and in sharp focus, while others revealed only a faint, translucent figure that could easily be overlooked. The inconsistency suggested that the phenomenon was influenced by factors beyond simple technological differences. Dr. Hartwell began researching the Kellerman family history more extensively, hoping to find some explanation for the mysterious woman's apparent connection to the 1932 family gathering. Using census records, birth certificates, marriage licenses, and local newspaper archives, she traced the family's presence in rural Illinois back to the 1880s, when Robert's great-grandparents had emigrated from Germany and established their farm. The research revealed that the Kellerman family had indeed experienced tragedy and loss during the early decades of the 20th century, including several deaths that had occurred under mysterious or unexplained circumstances. Most significantly, Dr. Hartwell discovered references to a woman named Catherine Kellerman, who had married into the family in 1928, but had disappeared without explanation in early 1932, just months before the family reunion photograph was taken. According to local police records that Dr. Hartwell obtained from the Illinois State Archives, Catherine Kellerman had vanished from the family farm on a snowy February night in 1932. Her husband Thomas, Robert's uncle, had reported finding their bedroom empty when he woke in the morning, with no signs of struggle or indication of where Catherine might have gone. Despite extensive searches by local authorities and community volunteers, no trace of Catherine was ever found. The police investigation had been complicated by the fact that Catherine seemed to have no family or personal history that could be traced beyond her arrival in the community in 1928. She had claimed to be from Chicago, but authorities could find no records of her birth, education, or employment in the city. Her marriage to Thomas Kellerman appeared to be the first documented evidence of her existence in any official records. Most unsettling was the discovery that several family members had reported strange experiences involving Catherine even before her disappearance. According to police interviews preserved in the case files, Catherine had been known for her uncanny ability to know things she shouldn't have known, including family secrets from generations past and details about deceased relatives she had never met. Family members described Catherine as having an almost supernatural connection to the Kellerman family history, often speaking about dead relatives as if she had known them personally, and demonstrating knowledge of family events that had occurred decades before her birth. Some family members had found her insights comforting, while others had been disturbed by her apparent ability to access information that should have been impossible for her to know. Dr. Hartwell compared the appearance of the mysterious woman in the 1932 photograph to the few surviving pictures of Catherine Kellerman that she had found in local newspaper archives. The resemblance was unmistakable: the same facial features, the same confident posture, and the same enigmatic expression that seemed to suggest knowledge beyond normal human understanding. But Catherine had disappeared 5 months before the July 1932 family reunion, making her presence in the photograph impossible through conventional means. If the woman in the photograph was indeed Catherine, her appearance raised disturbing questions about the nature of her disappearance and the possibility that she had somehow remained connected to the Kellerman family despite her physical absence. Dr. Hartwell contacted Dr. Rebecca Stone, a parapsychologist from Duke University who specialized in investigating claims of photographic manifestations and consciousness preservation. Dr. Stone arrived in Chicago with equipment designed to detect electromagnetic phenomena and measure any unusual properties that might explain Catherine's apparent presence in the family photograph. Dr. Stone's initial examination revealed electromagnetic signatures associated with the 1932 photograph that were consistent with patterns she had observed in other cases involving consciousness manifestation. The readings were strongest in the area where Catherine appeared in digital reproductions, suggesting that some form of energy field was present that could affect how digital scanning equipment processed visual information. According to Dr. Stone's preliminary analysis, intense emotional states and unresolved psychological conflicts could sometimes create electromagnetic imprints that persisted long after the emotions themselves had passed. If Catherine Kellerman had experienced powerful attachment to the Kellerman family, combined with trauma related to her mysterious disappearance, it might have created conditions necessary for consciousness preservation and manifestation. The research team began investigating the circumstances surrounding Catherine's arrival in the Kellerman family and her subsequent disappearance, looking for emotional and psychological factors that might have contributed to consciousness imprinting. They discovered that Catherine's marriage to Thomas Kellerman had been unusually intense and passionate, with family members describing a relationship that seemed to transcend normal romantic attachment. According to family letters and diary entries that Dr. Hartwell obtained from the Kellerman descendants, Catherine had expressed deep love for the entire Kellerman family, not just her husband Thomas. She had spoken frequently about feeling that she had finally found her true family after years of searching and loneliness, suggesting that her connection to the Kellermans had fulfilled a profound psychological need for belonging and identity. The letters also revealed that Catherine had been experiencing disturbing dreams and visions in the weeks before her disappearance, involving what she described as calling voices that seemed to be summoning her to join family members who had already died. She had confided to Thomas that she sometimes felt pulled between the world of the living and some other realm where deceased Kellermans were waiting for her. Thomas's diary entries from early 1932 documented his growing concern about Catherine's mental state and her increasing preoccupation with death and the afterlife. He described finding her standing in the cemetery at night, apparently talking to the graves of his deceased relatives, and her claims that dead family members were appearing to her in dreams with important messages for the living. The final diary entry, dated February 13, 1932, the day before Catherine's disappearance, recorded Thomas's decision to seek medical help for his wife's condition. He had planned to take her to Chicago to consult with specialists who might be able to help her with what he described as her growing disconnection from reality and her apparent communication with deceased family members. But Catherine had vanished before any medical intervention could take place, leaving behind only questions about her identity, her psychological state, and the nature of her apparent connection to the Kellerman family's deceased members. The police investigation had concluded that she had likely suffered a psychological breakdown and wandered into the winter wilderness, where she had died from exposure. Dr. Stone's research revealed that Catherine's case showed characteristics common to individuals who developed what she termed consciousness displacement disorder, a condition where intense emotional attachment combined with psychological trauma could cause consciousness to become partially separated from physical existence. In severe cases, displaced consciousness could persist after physical death, maintaining connections to people and places that had been emotionally significant. The research team conducted experiments designed to enhance Catherine's manifestation in the 1932 photograph, using electromagnetic field generators and consciousness-focusing techniques developed by Dr. Stone's research program at Duke University. The experiments confirmed that Catherine's presence could be strengthened and clarified through specific technological and psychological interventions. During successful manifestation sessions, Catherine's image in digital reproductions became remarkably clear and detailed, revealing expressions and gestures that suggested active awareness rather than simple photographic preservation. She appeared to be responding to the attention and emotional investment of the researchers, becoming more vivid and lifelike as the experiments progressed. Most remarkably, the enhanced manifestations revealed that Catherine seemed to be trying to communicate through subtle changes in her facial expression and body language. Dr. Stone developed a system for interpreting these visual communications, discovering that Catherine was attempting to convey information about her disappearance and her continued connection to the Kellerman family. Through careful analysis of Catherine's manifestation patterns, the research team deciphered messages indicating that her consciousness had become permanently merged with the Kellerman family's collective memory and emotional heritage. She had not simply died and disappeared, but had somehow transcended individual existence to become part of the family's ongoing psychic and emotional structure. Catherine's communications suggested that she existed in a state that combined individual awareness with collective family consciousness, allowing her to maintain connections to living Kellermans while serving as a bridge between them and deceased family members. Her role had evolved from individual family member to guardian spirit, who protected and guided the family across generations. Dr. Hartwell began investigating other Kellerman family photographs, looking for additional evidence of Catherine's ongoing presence in family events after her physical disappearance. Her search revealed that Catherine appeared in digital reproductions of at least 12 other family photographs taken between 1932 and 1987, always positioned at the edge of family gatherings as if maintaining her protective watch over the family. In each subsequent photograph, Catherine appeared older and more mature, suggesting that her consciousness had continued to develop and evolve despite her physical absence. By the 1980s, her image showed a woman who appeared to be in her 60s or 70s, indicating that consciousness preservation could include normal aging processes even without biological existence. The discovery of Catherine's ongoing presence in family photographs, spanning 5 decades, revolutionized understanding of consciousness preservation and family psychic connections. Her case demonstrated that intense emotional bonds could create persistent consciousness that maintained relationships with living family members across multiple generations. Dr. Stone established research protocols for studying multi-generational consciousness preservation, developing methods for detecting and communicating with consciousness entities that maintained long-term connections to specific families. The research revealed that Catherine's case was not unique, and that many families might have similar guardian consciousness entities that protected and guided them without their conscious awareness. The Kellerman family descendants were initially disturbed by the discovery of Catherine's continued presence in their family photographs, but gradually came to appreciate her role as a protective guardian who had watched over them for decades. Several family members reported that they had experienced unexplained instances of guidance and protection throughout their lives that they could now attribute to Catherine's intervention. Robert Kellerman's grandson, David, became particularly interested in Catherine's story, conducting his own research into family history and uncovering additional evidence of her protective influence. David documented several instances where family members had been warned of danger through dreams or intuitive feelings that had proved accurate, suggesting that Catherine was actively working to protect the family from harm. The research attracted international attention as other families began examining their historical photographs for evidence of similar consciousness preservation phenomena. Dr. Hartwell received reports from around the world describing family guardian entities that appeared in photographs spanning multiple decades, always positioned to observe and protect their living relatives. Dr. Stone organized the first international conference on family consciousness preservation, bringing together researchers who were investigating the psychological and parapsychological mechanisms that allowed consciousness to persist within family systems. The conference documented hundreds of cases involving guardian consciousness entities that maintained protective relationships with their families across generations. The research revealed that family consciousness preservation was most common in families that had experienced significant trauma or loss, with the preserved consciousness often representing individuals who had died under mysterious circumstances or who had felt particularly strong emotional connections to their family groups. The preservation seemed to be motivated by love and protective instincts that were strong enough to transcend physical death. Dr. Hartwell established the Institute for Family Consciousness Studies, the first research facility dedicated to understanding how consciousness could be preserved within family systems and how these preserved entities influence the lives of their living relatives. The Institute provided support for families dealing with guardian consciousness phenomena while advancing scientific understanding of consciousness preservation. Catherine Kellerman's case became the Institute's foundational study, demonstrating that consciousness preservation could serve beneficial functions for families dealing with loss and trauma. Her story showed that death need not represent absolute separation, but could mark the beginning of a different kind of family relationship that provided ongoing support and protection. The Institute developed therapeutic programs for families who had discovered guardian consciousness entities in their photographs, providing counseling and support for processing the complex emotions involved in maintaining relationships with deceased relatives who continued to exist in preserved consciousness form. The programs helped families understand and appreciate the protective role of their guardian entities. Dr. Stone's research revealed that guardian consciousness entities could influence family events in subtle but measurable ways, providing warnings about danger, guidance during difficult decisions, and emotional support during times of crisis. The entities seemed to possess awareness of both family history and future possibilities, allowing them to provide guidance that drew on accumulated family wisdom. The research team documented cases where guardian consciousness entities had prevented accidents, helped family members find lost objects, and provided inspiration during creative and professional endeavors. The entities appeared to function as sources of family wisdom and protection that operated through intuitive communication and subtle environmental influence. Catherine's communications through photographic manifestation indicated that guardian consciousness entities retained full awareness of their family members' lives and continued to feel love and concern for their welfare. The entities experienced satisfaction and fulfillment through their protective role, suggesting that consciousness preservation served the needs of both preserved entities and living family members. Dr. Hartwell's continued research revealed that guardian consciousness preservation was not limited to recent generations, and that some families had protective entities that dated back centuries. These ancient guardian entities had accumulated vast amounts of family wisdom and historical knowledge, serving as repositories of cultural and genetic memory that could benefit their descendants. The Institute established programs for helping families access the wisdom and guidance of their guardian consciousness entities, developing communication techniques that allowed living family members to receive advice and support from their preserved relatives. The programs provided new methods for maintaining family connections across the boundaries of life and death. Catherine Kellerman's story became the subject of documentaries, academic papers, and popular books that introduced the general public to the concept of family consciousness preservation. Her case demonstrated that love and family bonds could transcend any obstacle, including death itself, when they were strong enough to create lasting connections between consciousness and family systems. The 1932 family reunion photograph became a symbol of the hidden protective forces that operated within family systems, representing the mysterious ways that love could persist and continue to provide support across generations. Catherine's presence in the photograph served as proof that families were connected by bonds that extended far beyond biological relationships and physical existence. Dr. Hartwell often reflected on the extraordinary discovery that had begun with a routine genealogical inquiry and evolved into groundbreaking research that was reshaping understanding of consciousness, family relationships, and the persistence of love beyond death. Catherine Kellerman had become proof that some family members never truly left, but continued to watch over and protect their loved ones through forms of existence that science was only beginning to understand. The Institute for Family Consciousness Studies continued to grow, establishing research partnerships with universities and medical centers around the world that were investigating the relationship between consciousness preservation and family psychological health. The research demonstrated that awareness of guardian consciousness entities could provide comfort and support for families dealing with grief and loss. As the field of family consciousness research matured, Catherine Kellerman remained its most famous and inspiring example. Her transformation from mysterious disappearance victim to protective family guardian had opened doorways to new understanding of consciousness, death, and the eternal nature of family love. The woman who had vanished into a February snowstorm in 1932 had found a way to return to her family through the power of preserved consciousness, demonstrating that some bonds were strong enough to transcend any separation. Catherine's story provided hope for all families dealing with loss, proving that love could create forms of existence that allowed family relationships to continue even after death. Her presence in the family reunion photograph had become a window into the hidden dimensions of family life, revealing that every family gathering might include unseen participants who continued to love and protect their relatives from realms beyond normal human understanding. Catherine Kellerman had shown that families were far more than collections of living individuals, but rather complex consciousness systems that included the wisdom, love, and protection of all family members across all generations. The photograph that had started as a simple family documentation had become proof that consciousness could find ways to maintain family connections regardless of the obstacles posed by death, time, or the limitations of physical existence. Catherine's story demonstrated that some family members became more powerful and protective after death than they had ever been in life, using the strength of preserved consciousness to watch over and guide their loved ones across the vast expanses of time and space. As research into family consciousness preservation continued to advance, Catherine Kellerman's case remained the gold standard for understanding how love could transcend death and create new forms of existence dedicated to family protection and guidance. Her mysterious appearance in the 1932 photograph had opened doorways to hope and healing that would benefit families around the world for generations to come, proving that the bonds of family love were indeed stronger than death and more persistent than time itself. But Catherine's story was far from over. 7 years after the initial discovery of her presence in the 1932 family reunion photograph, Dr. Hartwell received an urgent call from David Kellerman, Robert's grandson, who had become the family's primary researcher and liaison with the Institute for Family Consciousness Studies. David's voice carried a mixture of excitement and apprehension as he described extraordinary developments that had begun occurring at the original Kellerman family farm in rural Illinois. Dr. Hartwell, something incredible is happening here. Catherine isn't just appearing in photographs anymore. Family members are seeing her directly, and she's trying to communicate with us about something important. We need your help to understand what she's trying to tell us. Dr. Hartwell immediately assembled her research team and traveled to the Kellerman farm, which had remained in the family for over 150 years and had been carefully preserved as a historical site and family gathering place. When she arrived, she found 3 generations of Kellermans assembled in the farmhouse, their faces reflecting a mixture of wonder, fear, and hope that defied easy description. According to the family's account, Catherine had begun manifesting visually during the previous month, appearing as a translucent figure in various locations around the farm where significant family events had taken place. The manifestations occurred most frequently during the evening hours, when atmospheric conditions seemed to create optimal environments for consciousness materialization. David Kellerman showed Dr. Hartwell to the front porch, where the 1932 family reunion photograph had been taken, explaining that Catherine appeared there most consistently and seemed to be trying to direct their attention to specific areas of the property. Her manifestations had become increasingly vivid and detailed, progressing from brief glimpses to sustained appearances that lasted for several minutes at a time. Dr. Stone arrived from Duke University with portable equipment designed to measure electromagnetic phenomena and detect the environmental conditions that facilitated consciousness manifestation. Her preliminary readings confirmed that the Kellerman farm was experiencing electromagnetic anomalies consistent with active consciousness preservation, with energy signatures that exceeded anything previously documented in family consciousness research. The research team set up monitoring equipment around the farm, focusing on locations where Catherine had been seen most frequently. As evening approached, electromagnetic readings began to fluctuate dramatically, and several family members reported sensing a presence that seemed to be moving through the house and surrounding buildings. At approximately sunset, Catherine's figure began to materialize on the front porch, exactly where she had appeared in the 1932 photograph. Her form was translucent, but clearly defined, showing a woman who appeared to be in her 40s wearing the same dark dress she had worn in the family reunion image. Her expression was urgent and purposeful, suggesting that her manifestation was driven by specific intentions rather than random consciousness activity. Dr. Hartwell documented Catherine's behavior during the manifestation, noting that she repeatedly pointed toward the old family cemetery located about a quarter-mile from the farmhouse. Her gestures were deliberate and insistent, clearly indicating that she wanted the family to investigate something connected to the burial ground where generations of Kellermans had been laid to rest. The manifestation lasted for nearly 15 minutes, during which Catherine appeared to be speaking, though no sound accompanied her visual presence. Dr. Stone attempted to use electromagnetic field modulation to enhance Catherine's communication capabilities, achieving limited success in creating conditions that allowed faint auditory phenomena to accompany her visual manifestations. Through careful observation and electronic enhancement, the research team was able to distinguish words and phrases in Catherine's silent speech. She appeared to be saying, "Remember the truth and find what was hidden," repeatedly, along with references to the one who came before and the secret that protects the family. After Catherine's figure faded at full darkness, the assembled family members discussed the possible meanings of her communications. Several elderly relatives recalled family stories about secrets and hidden things that had been mentioned by previous generations but never fully explained. David Kellerman's great-aunt Margaret, the oldest living family member at 93, revealed that she had heard whispered conversations as a child about something important that had been buried in the family cemetery. According to Margaret's fragmented memories, her grandmother had spoken about a family secret that was too dangerous to discuss openly, but too important to forget completely. The secret was somehow connected to the family's survival during difficult times and involved something that had been hidden in the cemetery for safekeeping during a period of crisis or danger. Dr. Hartwell organized a systematic investigation of the Kellerman family cemetery, using ground-penetrating radar and electromagnetic detection equipment to search for buried objects or structural anomalies that might explain Catherine's urgent communications. The cemetery contained graves dating back to the 1880s, with weathered headstones marking the final resting places of 4 generations of family members. The electronic survey revealed several subsurface anomalies that didn't correspond to known grave sites, including what appeared to be a substantial buried structure located near the center of the cemetery. The structure was too large and complex to be a simple grave, suggesting that it might be a family vault or storage chamber that had been concealed and forgotten over the decades. With permission from local authorities and the cooperation of the Kellerman family, Dr. Hartwell's team began a careful archaeological excavation of the anomalous area, working slowly and methodically to preserve any historical artifacts they might discover. They uncovered a stone-lined chamber that had been deliberately hidden beneath several feet of earth and vegetation. The chamber contained dozens of wooden boxes and metal containers that had been carefully preserved by the dry environment and protective stone construction. Initial examination revealed that the containers held an extraordinary collection of documents, photographs, and personal artifacts that documented aspects of Kellerman family history that had been completely unknown to living family members. Among the most significant discoveries was a detailed journal kept by Catherine Kellerman during her brief marriage to Thomas, revealing that her mysterious disappearance in 1932 had not been the result of psychological breakdown or suicide, but rather a carefully planned escape from dangers that had threatened not only her own life, but the safety of the entire Kellerman family. According to Catherine's journal, she had been born Catherine Volkov in Russia in 1898, the daughter of a family that had possessed what she described as hereditary psychic abilities that allowed them to perceive events across time and space. The Volkov family had served as advisors and protectors for other families, using their consciousness abilities to provide warnings about future dangers and guidance during times of crisis. Catherine had fled Russia during the Revolution of 1917, eventually making her way to America, where she had attempted to live a normal life while suppressing her psychic abilities. However, her marriage to Thomas Kellerman had awakened her dormant consciousness powers, connecting her to the family's history and future in ways that revealed both wonderful possibilities and terrible dangers. The journal documented Catherine's growing awareness that the Kellerman family was being watched and potentially threatened by individuals who sought to exploit or eliminate families with genetic predispositions towards psychic abilities. She had discovered that several other rural families in the Midwest had experienced mysterious disappearances and deaths that followed patterns suggesting organized persecution of psychically gifted individuals. Catherine's research had revealed that a secret organization, which she referred to only as the Collectors, was systematically identifying and targeting families that showed signs of hereditary psychic abilities. The organization appeared to be interested in either recruiting psychically gifted individuals for unknown purposes or eliminating them to prevent their abilities from being passed to future generations. The journal's final entries described Catherine's realization that her presence in the Kellerman family had made them visible to the Collectors, putting all family members at risk. Her disappearance had been a desperate attempt to lead the danger away from the family, while using her psychic abilities to maintain protective connections that would warn and guide them from a distance. Catherine had faked her own death, using her consciousness abilities to create the illusion of disappearance, while actually hiding in remote locations where she could continue to monitor and protect the family without exposing them to the dangers that followed her. Her journal indicated that she had successfully evaded the Collectors for several years before her physical death sometime in the late 1930s. Most remarkably, the journal revealed that Catherine had planned her own consciousness preservation as a final act of protection for the Kellerman family. She had used techniques passed down through her Russian family lineage to ensure that her awareness would persist after physical death, allowing her to continue serving as a guardian and protector for the Kellermans across future generations. The discovery of Catherine's true story revolutionized the family's understanding of their own history and explained the protective experiences that many family members had reported throughout their lives. Catherine's consciousness preservation had not been an accidental result of emotional trauma, but rather a deliberate sacrifice that ensured the family's continued safety and guidance. Dr. Stone's analysis of Catherine's journal revealed sophisticated knowledge of consciousness preservation techniques that predated modern parapsychological research by decades. The Volkov family traditions included detailed instructions for maintaining awareness after death, suggesting that consciousness preservation had been practiced by certain lineages for centuries. The buried chamber contained additional artifacts that documented the Volkov family's psychic heritage, including books written in Russian that described advanced consciousness techniques, genealogical records tracing psychic abilities through multiple generations, and correspondence with other families around the world that possessed similar hereditary gifts. Dr. Hartwell arranged for translation of the Russian documents, revealing a comprehensive system of consciousness development and preservation that had been maintained by psychically gifted families across Eastern Europe for hundreds of years. The system included training methods for enhancing psychic abilities, techniques for protecting families from persecution, and detailed instructions for consciousness preservation after death. The translations revealed that the persecution of psychically gifted families had been ongoing for centuries, with various organizations attempting to control or eliminate individuals whose abilities threatened established power structures. The Volkov family had served as protectors and teachers for other psychic families, helping them develop their abilities while maintaining secrecy and safety. Catherine's consciousness preservation represented the culmination of generations of Volkov family knowledge, combining traditional Russian psychic techniques with innovative applications that ensured her protective abilities would persist indefinitely. Her success in maintaining consciousness after death, while providing ongoing family protection, demonstrated the advanced level of psychic development that the Volkov lineage had achieved. The research team discovered that Catherine's protective influence had extended far beyond the Kellerman family, with evidence suggesting that she had helped other psychically gifted families avoid detection and persecution throughout the 20th century. Her consciousness preservation had allowed her to serve as a guardian for multiple family groups that had been threatened by the Collectors and similar organizations. Dr. Hartwell established contact with descendants of other families mentioned in the Volkov documents, discovering that many had experienced protective phenomena similar to what the Kellermans had encountered. These families had guardian consciousness entities that provided warnings, guidance, and protection, though most had not understood the true nature of their experiences. The research revealed an international network of preserved consciousness entities that had been protecting psychically gifted families for decades, creating a hidden system of mutual support and defense that operated beyond the awareness of both persecution organizations and the families themselves. Catherine's case represented one node in a vast network of consciousness preservation that spanned continents and cultures. Dr. Stone organized the first international conference on psychic family protection, bringing together researchers and family representatives from around the world who were investigating similar consciousness preservation phenomena. The conference documented hundreds of cases involving guardian consciousness entities that had protected psychically gifted families from persecution and harm. The conference revealed that the persecution of psychic families had been more widespread and systematic than previously understood, with evidence of organized efforts to identify and eliminate hereditary psychic abilities throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. The preserved consciousness network had been humanity's primary defense against these persecution efforts. Dr. Hartwell established the Institute for Psychic Heritage Protection, expanding the original family consciousness research to include investigation of persecution patterns and the development of modern protection methods for psychically gifted individuals and families. The Institute provided support for families dealing with guardian consciousness phenomena while documenting the historical extent of psychic persecution. Catherine Kellerman's case became the foundation for understanding how consciousness preservation could serve protective functions that extended across multiple generations and geographic regions. Her story demonstrated that some individuals were willing to sacrifice normal existence to ensure the safety and continuity of psychic heritage for future generations. The Institute developed training programs for individuals with hereditary psychic abilities, teaching them how to develop their gifts safely while maintaining protection from contemporary persecution efforts. The programs drew on traditional knowledge preserved in documents like those found in the Kellerman family burial chamber. Dr. Stone's research revealed that psychic abilities were becoming more common in the general population, possibly due to evolutionary pressures or environmental changes that favored enhanced consciousness capabilities. This trend suggested that the protection methods developed by families like the Volkoffs and Kellermans would become increasingly important for humanity's psychic development. The research attracted attention from government agencies and private organizations interested in either supporting or suppressing psychic development, recreating the same pressures that had led to historical persecution of psychic families. The Institute worked to maintain the secrecy and safety that had protected psychic heritage for centuries. Catherine's consciousness preservation demonstrated that love and dedication could transcend death to continue providing protection and guidance across generations. Her sacrifice had ensured not only the Kellerman family's safety, but had contributed to the preservation of psychic heritage for humanity as a whole. The 1932 family reunion photograph became a symbol of the hidden protective forces that operated within psychic family systems, representing the mysterious ways that consciousness could persist and continue to provide support across the boundaries of life and death. Catherine's presence in the photograph served as proof that some guardians never abandoned their protective duties even after physical death. Dr. Hartwell often reflected on the extraordinary discovery that had begun with a mysterious figure in a family photograph and evolved into understanding of a worldwide network of consciousness preservation that had protected psychic heritage for centuries. Catherine Kellerman had become proof that some individuals were capable of ultimate sacrifice to ensure the continuation of human psychic development. The Institute for Psychic Heritage Protection continued to grow, establishing research partnerships with universities and organizations around the world that were investigating the relationship between consciousness preservation and human evolution. The research demonstrated that guardian consciousness entities represented an advanced form of human development that pointed toward humanity's psychic future. As the field of psychic heritage research matured, Catherine Kellerman remained its most inspiring example of consciousness preservation motivated by love and protection. Her transformation from persecution victim to eternal guardian had opened doorways to understanding human psychic potential and the lengths to which some individuals would go to protect that potential for future generations. The woman who had sacrificed her normal life to protect the Kellerman family had become a model for all guardian consciousness entities, demonstrating that some forms of love were strong enough to transcend death and create eternal protective relationships. Catherine's story provided hope and guidance for psychic families around the world, proving that they were never truly alone in their struggles against persecution and misunderstanding. Her consciousness preservation had created a bridge between traditional psychic knowledge and modern understanding, allowing ancient protection methods to be combined with contemporary research to create more effective defense systems for psychic heritage. Catherine had shown that the wisdom of the past could be preserved and applied to protect the psychic development of future generations. The photograph that had started as a simple family documentation had become a window into the hidden history of human psychic development and the sacrifices that had been made to preserve it across centuries of persecution. Catherine's presence in the 1932 family reunion represented all the guardian consciousness entities that had protected psychic heritage throughout human history. As research into psychic heritage protection continued to advance, Catherine Kellerman's case remained the gold standard for understanding how consciousness preservation could serve protective functions that extended far beyond individual families to encompass the preservation of human psychic potential itself. Her mysterious appearance in the family photograph had opened doorways to hope and protection that would benefit psychic development around the world for generations to come. The discovery of her true story had transformed understanding of family consciousness preservation from simple emotional attachment to sophisticated protection systems that had been developed over centuries to ensure the survival of humanity's psychic heritage. Catherine had proven that some guardians were willing to sacrifice everything to protect the gifts that would allow humanity to evolve beyond its current limitations. Her consciousness preservation represented the ultimate expression of love and dedication, demonstrating that some individuals could transcend death itself to continue serving the greater good of human psychic development. Catherine Kellerman had become proof that consciousness could achieve levels of commitment and sacrifice that exceeded normal human understanding, creating protective systems that operated beyond the boundaries of individual existence. The woman who had appeared mysteriously in a 1932 family photograph had revealed secrets that changed everything humanity thought it knew about psychic heritage, consciousness preservation, and the hidden networks of protection that had operated throughout history to ensure the survival of human psychic potential. Catherine's story would continue inspiring and protecting psychic families around the world, proving that some forms of love and dedication truly were stronger than death and more persistent than time itself. But the implications of Catherine's revelations extended far beyond the Kellerman family or even the network of preserved consciousness entities that had been protecting psychic heritage for centuries. 3 years after the discovery of the buried chamber and Catherine's true identity, Dr. Hartwell received intelligence that would transform their understanding of the collectors, from historical curiosity to active contemporary threat that continued to operate in the modern world. The information came from Dr. Elena Vasquez, a former government researcher, who had spent decades investigating unexplained disappearances and deaths among individuals with documented psychic abilities. Dr. Vasquez had been monitoring the Institute's research and contacted Dr. Hartwell with evidence that the persecution of psychic families had not ended with the 20th century, but had evolved and intensified using modern technology and global surveillance systems. According to Dr. Vasquez's research, the collectors had transformed from the loosely organized persecution network that Catherine had fled in the 1930s into a sophisticated international organization with resources that included government connections, advanced technology, and systematic methods for identifying and targeting individuals with psychic abilities. The organization operated through legitimate-seeming research institutions, medical facilities, and educational programs that served as fronts for psychic detection and elimination operations. Dr. Vasquez provided documentation showing that the collectors had developed electronic methods for detecting psychic abilities, using brain scanning technology, electromagnetic field measurements, and behavioral analysis programs to identify individuals with hereditary psychic gifts. The organization maintained databases containing millions of profiles of potentially psychic individuals and their family members, creating comprehensive surveillance networks that spanned multiple countries and cultures. Most disturbing was Dr. Vasquez's evidence that the collectors had been responsible for hundreds of contemporary disappearances and deaths involving psychic individuals, using methods that made their elimination appear to be accidents, suicides, or natural deaths. The organization had become far more sophisticated and dangerous than the crude persecution methods that Catherine had escaped in the 1930s. Dr. Hartwell immediately convened an emergency meeting of the Institute's leadership, including Dr. Stone and representatives from the Guardian Consciousness entities who had been providing protection for psychic families. The meeting revealed that several consciousness entities had been aware of the collectors' modern activities, but had been unable to provide adequate warnings to their protected families due to the organization's advanced detection and countermeasure capabilities. Catherine's consciousness entity, speaking through electromagnetic communication methods developed by Dr. Stone's research team, confirmed that the collectors had been systematically hunting for the descendants of families that had escaped persecution in previous generations. The organization had identified the Kellerman family as targets due to their connection to Catherine and their potential for developing psychic abilities in future generations. According to Catherine's communications, the collectors had been monitoring the Institute's research activities and were planning operations to eliminate both the research team and the families they had been studying. The organization viewed the Institute's work as a threat to their long-term goals of controlling or eliminating human psychic development, and they were prepared to use extreme measures to prevent the continuation of consciousness preservation research. Dr. Hartwell realized that the Institute's open research activities had inadvertently exposed the families they were trying to protect, making them visible to the same forces that Catherine had spent her afterlife trying to shield them from. The discovery created an urgent need to develop new protection methods that could defend against modern surveillance and elimination techniques while maintaining the research necessary to understand and preserve psychic heritage. The Guardian Consciousness entities revealed that they had been developing their own countermeasures against the collectors, using their preserved awareness to interfere with electronic surveillance systems, provide warnings to threatened families, and coordinate protective activities across the global network of consciousness preservation. However, their abilities were limited by their electromagnetic nature and their dependence on technological interfaces for communication with the living world. Dr. Stone's research team began developing advanced communication systems that would allow more effective coordination between consciousness entities and living psychic families, creating encrypted networks that could operate without detection by collector surveillance systems. The work required combining traditional consciousness preservation techniques with cutting-edge electronic security methods. The Institute established safe houses and protection protocols for families that were at immediate risk from collector operations, using knowledge provided by the consciousness entities to identify and counter surveillance activities. The protection networks drew on resources from sympathetic government officials, independent researchers, and wealthy individuals who supported psychic development research. Dr. Vasquez provided training for Institute personnel in counter-surveillance techniques, personal security methods, and recognition of collector operational patterns. Her expertise in government intelligence operations proved invaluable for understanding and countering the sophisticated methods that the organization was using to target psychic individuals and their families. The research revealed that the collector's ultimate goal was not simply the elimination of psychic abilities, but the harvesting and control of psychic consciousness for purposes that remained unclear. Evidence suggested that the organization was conducting experiments involving consciousness extraction, psychic ability transfer, and the creation of artificial consciousness entities that could be controlled and directed for unknown purposes. Catherine's consciousness entity provided crucial intelligence about collector research facilities, including hidden installations where captured psychic individuals were being held for experimentation. Her preserved awareness allowed her to observe collector activities that were invisible to conventional surveillance methods, providing the Institute with information necessary for planning rescue operations. The Institute began coordinating with law enforcement agencies and international human rights organizations, to investigate and expose collector operations using evidence provided by consciousness entities to build legal cases against the organization. The work required careful balance between protecting psychic families and maintaining the secrecy necessary to prevent collector retaliation. Dr. Hartwell established emergency protocols for consciousness entity communication during crisis situations, ensuring that guardian entities could provide real-time warnings and guidance to threatened families. The protocols included backup communication methods that could operate even if primary electronic systems were compromised by collector interference. The consciousness entities revealed that they had been maintaining hidden archives of psychic family genealogies, preservation techniques, and historical documentation that could be crucial for rebuilding psychic heritage networks if collector operations succeeded in eliminating contemporary research facilities. These archives were stored in electromagnetic formats that were accessible only to preserved consciousness entities. Dr. Stone developed methods for accessing and downloading information from consciousness entity archives, creating secure backup systems that could preserve psychic heritage knowledge even if physical research facilities were destroyed. The work involved creating hybrid storage systems that combined electronic data preservation with consciousness entity access protocols. The Institute established international coordination centers that could maintain psychic family protection networks across multiple continents, ensuring that collector operations in one region could not eliminate the entire consciousness preservation system. The centers operated using decentralized communication networks that were resistant to systematic surveillance and interference. Catherine's consciousness entity provided training for other guardian entities in advanced protection techniques, sharing knowledge that had been developed through decades of defending the Kellerman family against various threats. Her expertise became foundational for improving the effectiveness of consciousness preservation protection networks worldwide. The research revealed that psychic abilities were not randomly distributed in the human population, but were concentrated in specific genetic lineages that had been targets of persecution for centuries. The collectors' systematic elimination efforts had significantly reduced the number of strongly psychic individuals, creating an urgent need to protect remaining psychic families and support the development of emerging abilities in new generations. Dr. Hartwell organized underground networks of psychic individuals and their families, creating support systems that operated outside of conventional institutions and surveillance networks. The underground networks provided training, protection, and community for psychic individuals, while maintaining the secrecy necessary for survival in a hostile environment. The consciousness entities revealed that they had been working to accelerate psychic development in protected families, using their preserved awareness to provide enhanced training and ability development that could create stronger psychic individuals capable of defending themselves against collector operations. The acceleration process involved techniques that combined traditional consciousness development with electromagnetic enhancement methods. Dr. Stone's research team discovered that consciousness entities could temporarily merge their awareness with living psychic individuals, creating hybrid consciousness states that provided dramatically enhanced psychic abilities for limited periods. The merger process required careful preparation and training to prevent psychological damage to the living participants. The hybrid consciousness experiments revealed that consciousness preservation was only one aspect of a larger system of consciousness evolution that could allow human awareness to transcend normal biological limitations. The preserved entities represented an intermediate stage in consciousness development that pointed toward even more advanced forms of human awareness and capability. Catherine's consciousness entity demonstrated advanced merger techniques that allowed her to provide temporary possession-like states that gave living individuals access to her decades of preserved knowledge and psychic abilities. The demonstrations showed that consciousness preservation could serve not just protective functions, but could also accelerate human psychic evolution through direct knowledge transfer. The Institute established training programs for consciousness merger techniques, teaching psychic individuals how to safely interface with guardian entities to access preserved knowledge and enhanced abilities. The programs required extensive psychological preparation and ongoing support to prevent adverse effects from consciousness sharing. Dr. Vasquez's intelligence networks revealed that the collectors had become aware of the consciousness merger research and were developing countermeasures designed to prevent or disrupt merger activities. The organization viewed consciousness merger as an existential threat to their control objectives and were prepared to use extreme measures to prevent its development. The escalating conflict between consciousness preservation networks and collector operations created urgent needs for advanced defensive capabilities that could protect psychic development research while maintaining the secrecy necessary for long-term survival. The Institute began developing what amounted to a secret war strategy for defending human psychic heritage against systematic elimination efforts. Catherine's consciousness entity revealed that the Consciousness Preservation Network had been preparing for this conflict for decades, developing hidden resources and capabilities that could be activated when the threat became sufficiently serious. The revelation suggested that the consciousness entities possessed far more power and organization than had been previously understood. The guardian entities began manifesting more frequently and with greater physical presence, demonstrating abilities that included influencing electronic systems, affecting physical objects, and providing direct protection against human threats. Their manifestations suggested that consciousness preservation could achieve levels of power that approach supernatural capabilities when properly developed and coordinated. Dr. Hartwell realized that the Institute's research had uncovered not just historical curiosities about consciousness preservation, but had revealed an ongoing conflict that would determine the future of human psychic development and possibly human evolution itself. The work that had begun with a mysterious figure in a family photograph had evolved into humanity's battle for its psychic future. The consciousness entities revealed that they had been waiting for the right moment to reveal their full capabilities and organize open resistance against collector operations. Catherine's appearance in the 1932 photograph had been the beginning of a careful plan to prepare humanity for this revelation and the conflict that would follow. The Institute established military-style command structures for coordinating consciousness preservation networks with living psychic families, creating organizational systems that could manage both defensive operations and continued research development. The structures drew on military expertise provided by sympathetic government officials and veterans who supported psychic development research. Dr. Stone's research revealed that consciousness merger could be extended beyond individual experiences to create collective consciousness networks that allowed multiple preserved entities and living individuals to share awareness and coordinate activities. The collective networks provided capabilities that exceeded the sum of individual consciousness abilities, creating superorganism-like entities with vast power and knowledge. Catherine's consciousness entity became a central coordinator for collective consciousness networks, using her decades of preservation experience and protective expertise to organize and direct consciousness preservation resources for maximum effectiveness against collector threats. Her role evolved from individual family guardian to strategic leader for humanity's psychic defense networks. The Institute began recruiting and training individuals with strong psychic abilities for active participation in consciousness preservation networks, creating a new generation of human consciousness entity partnerships that could defend psychic heritage while advancing consciousness development research. The recruitment required careful screening to prevent collector infiltration while identifying individuals with the psychological strength necessary for consciousness merger activities. Dr. Hartwell established secure communication networks that allowed consciousness preservation research to continue even under active persecution, ensuring that psychic heritage knowledge would be preserved and transmitted regardless of collector interference. The networks combined traditional preservation methods with modern security technologies to create systems that were resistant to both electronic surveillance and consciousness-based interference. The consciousness entities revealed that their ultimate goal was not just preservation of existing psychic abilities, but the evolution of human consciousness to levels that would make persecution impossible and would allow humanity to transcend the limitations that had made collector operations effective. The preserved entities represented early stages in a consciousness evolution process that could fundamentally transform human capabilities and awareness. Catherine's story had become the foundation for understanding how individual sacrifice could contribute to species-wide evolution, demonstrating that consciousness preservation was not just about maintaining family connections, but about advancing human development toward forms of awareness that could ensure the survival and flourishing of psychic heritage for all humanity. The woman who had sacrificed her normal life to protect a single family in 1932 had become the leader of a consciousness preservation network that was fighting to protect all of humanity's psychic potential. Her presence in the family reunion photograph had been the first step in a plan that spanned decades and encompassed the transformation of human consciousness itself. As the conflict between consciousness preservation networks and collector operations intensified, Catherine Kellerman remained the symbol and leader of humanity's fight for its psychic future. Her story proved that some forms of love and dedication could transcend not only death, but could transform individual sacrifice into collective salvation that would protect and advance human consciousness for generations to come. The photograph that had started as simple family documentation had become the catalyst for humanity's greatest evolutionary challenge, revealing that the future of human consciousness depended on the courage and dedication of individuals willing to sacrifice everything to protect the psychic heritage that would allow humanity to transcend its current limitations and achieve its full potential as conscious beings capable of unlimited awareness and capability.